Hello everybody, this is Steve. Thank you so much for watching the video. It's good to know that you're watching this video, and I'm grateful that I get to spend a few minutes at least today investing into you and helping you raise your leadership capacity. And again, thank you so much for partnering with us to help us raise the leadership capacity of 30,000 people globally who work in the mental health and addiction fields, as well as the faith leaders around the globe who are interacting with and trying to help people who have mental health and addiction issues. So thank you doubly, if you will. So today what I wanted to do to add value to you is to begin a series of videos that are based primarily on the writings of a gentleman named John Maxwell. John Maxwell is considered maybe the #1 leadership guru in the world, teaching. He travels around the world teaching about leadership and personal growth, and over the last 20 years he's been a major influence on me. And so over the next about 15 videos or so, a lot of the material that I'll be using will come from his writings, and you will hear also in other videos, you will hear me quote him a lot. He is simply the most influential and practical teacher on leadership and personal growth. So today what I want to talk to you about is being intentional in your growth. So we've already completed a video on leadership development and why that's important. We completed a second video on personal growth and why that's important. So I want to talk to you about being intentional about your growth personally and as a leader. So here's what I know is that growth just does not happen automatically. I think a lot of people assume that they will just naturally grow through the process of life. But that doesn't happen in any area of life, does it? We only grow if we do so intentionally, if we have a plan, if we nurture ourselves, if we invest in ourselves. Let me give you some examples of some other areas in our lives and in the world where we have to intentionally grow. If you ever have had a child yourself, or if you know of people, if you're friends with people who have children, let me ask you a question. Do those little babies grow automatically? No, they don't. The answer is no, they don't. They grow because they are fed, they're nurtured, they're cleaned. There are some intentional things that their mom and dad do to help them grow. If you think about what would happen if a little baby is not fed, is not nurtured, is not cleaned, then they're eventually going to die, aren't they? So in the area of raising a little child, we have to intentionally do some things to help them grow. Also, some of you probably plant gardens, vegetable gardens or flowers or whatever you might be planting. Really the only way that those flowers or vegetables grow is if you are intentional about planting them in a certain area, certain distance apart from each other. You plant them intentionally in an area where they will get the adequate or enough sunlight for that particular plant. My guess is you probably also intentionally water the plants so that they grow. So these are just two quick examples where it's kind of common sense or common knowledge that for babies and plants to grow, we have to do that intentionally. We have to feed into them intentionally. Well, the same is true for us as we're growing in our own personal growth areas and as we are growing in our leadership capacity. We have to be intentional about it. We have to have some kind of plan. We have to have some kind of self-discipline in order to grow. So let me quickly run through some reasons why people don't grow intentionally. And these are in the writings of John Maxwell, but I want to summarize them for you. So number one reason is that people just assume that they will automatically grow, and I think I've already addressed that. The second one is that people don't know how to grow. People have expressed that they don't know how to grow, and so then they don't grow. They don't try to grow. They don't get a plan to grow. So people will express to me that, well, Steve, I want to grow in the area of, say, communication or in my relationships with my staff, but I just don't know how to do it. Okay, well that's a legitimate starting point. So how might you get to know how to grow in your communication or get to know how to grow in your relationships with your staff? Well, you ask somebody. You simply begin to get the knowledge, maybe through reading books, getting a coach or a mentor, or listening to podcasts or YouTube videos, whatever the case may be. If you don't know how to grow, you find a way to learn how to grow. It's like similarly when a number of years ago when my wife and I didn't have a whole lot of money at all, and my brakes needed to be replaced in my car. I mean, many of you don't know me, but I'm not the most mechanical person on the planet, but I knew that I didn't have the $300 or so to pay somebody else to change the brakes. So I didn't know how to change the brakes. So guess what I did? I asked somebody to show me how to change the brakes. And in this case, the person was my father-in-law. And instead of spending $300 on paying somebody else to fix my brakes, I spent about $50 on the items I needed, and then I learned how to change my brakes. And so, much in the same way, if you don't know how to grow, then ask. Get a coach, get a mentor, read some books, watch some YouTube videos, and talk to somebody who is in that area that you need to grow, and they are doing it better than you. Ask them how to grow. I find that the majority of the people are excited to help other people grow in their area of expertise. Another way that people prevent themselves from growing is that they are afraid to make a mistake as they grow. Can I tell you something? You're going to make mistakes. You've already made mistakes. You might be making mistakes now. You will make mistakes in the future. And for the most part, mistakes don't kill us. And for the most part, mistakes don't paralyze us. Mistakes are really opportunities for us to learn from our mistakes so that we can keep on growing. Okay, another trap people fall into that prevents them from growing is that they try to be perfect. They try to develop the perfect plan before they grow. Let me just help you here. There is no perfect plan. Just keep moving forward, okay? What I've found when I have tried in the past to have a really good plan moving forward to develop in a certain area, I had the plan written out. It felt good. It felt as good as it's going to get. But then as soon as I started moving down the road, the plan shifted because circumstances shifted. So the perfect plan just really never works out to be the perfect plan, does it? We always have to shift as we move forward. Another trap people fall into is the trap of timing. I've heard people say, it's just not the right time for me. I don't have the time to grow right now. Let me ask you a simple question. When is a good time to grow? There is a law called the law of diminishing intent. And the law of diminishing intent says the longer you wait to start something, the less likely it is you're going to start something. So the best time, I want to encourage you that the best time to start growing is right now. There is room in your calendar and in your schedule just to squeeze in maybe an hour a week or an hour a day or 15 minutes here and 15 minutes on another day, or whatever the case may be. Perhaps you can get up earlier in the morning or stay up a little bit later in the evening, whatever fits your best schedule. But I guarantee you that if you spend 30 to 60 minutes a day growing in a certain area, learning information, getting mentored in a certain area that you need to grow in, I guarantee in a fairly short period of time, you're going to see that you've grown. With knowledge and then the application of that knowledge, you'll see that you've grown. Another trap people fall into is what you might call the comparison gap. That we look at other people and say, well, I can't grow in that area because, Billy Bob over here, he's doing the same thing and he's so much better than I am. So let me tell you, Billy Bob might be a lot better than you are in that particular area. But should that be a reason to not grow in that area? When I first started my clinical private practice, which is now also a coaching practice, when I first started it, I had no idea, no clue about what I was getting myself into. And I would look around to other private practices and conclude that they were doing it bigger and better than I was. And in fact, they were doing it bigger and better than I was. And so the comparison gap, if I would have just stayed right there and saying, Susan had some much better practice than I do. I could never be as good as her. If I drew that conclusion, that would mean that I would never even make the effort to be as good as her or to move in her direction. By the way, other people are comparing themselves to you already. So people are looking at you and saying, I could never be as effective as Steve or as Johnny or whatever your name is. So people are looking at you that way too. And so the comparison gap is helpful to understand that it's okay to compare yourself to one another, but don't let that comparison paralyze you. In fact, let that comparison encourage you to move forward and to grow in the area. Okay, and the last trap I'm going to talk about today that people fall into that really get in their way of growing is the expectation trap. What is the expectation trap? The expectation trap essentially, it says, man, I thought growth was going to be easier than this. Let me tell you, growth is never easy. In fact, there's an old saying that says, anything worth having is uphill. Anything that's worth having takes effort to get to and to work for. You have to work for it. And so I'll tell you, just to be upfront, leadership development and personal growth is not the easiest thing in the world. In fact, it can be very difficult at times, but keep on moving. What other choice do you have? In fact, what other choice do you have? Keep growing, keep learning in the specific area that you need to grow in. So I want to give you some application here before we end the video. I want you to do a couple things here. I want you to ask yourself a couple questions, and then I'm going to give you some practical steps to do. I want to have you ask yourself 4 questions and spend several days after watching this video. Spend several days or a week or so trying to answer these questions for yourself. Okay, so question number 1 is, where do you want to go in life? So I'm 51 years old at the recording of this video, and I think to myself, well, where do I want to be when I'm 70? Where do I want to go in life? I would encourage you to ask yourself the same question. Like, where do I want to go in life? What do I want to have accomplished? Where do I want to be professionally and in my family and personally in life? Where do you want to go in life? Question number 2, what direction do you want to go? Where do you want to go, and then what direction do you want to go? Question number 3, what's the farthest you can imagine going? What's the farthest you can imagine going? If, for example, if you are an employee in a department in a company, can you imagine becoming the CEO of that company or another company? Could you imagine going farther than that? How far can you imagine going? Just ask yourself that question and be honest with yourself as you do that. Question number 4 is to ask, well, how long will this take? That's an important question because it helps us get a good estimate of how much effort, and to be realistic, how long it might take for us to get where we want to go. So somebody asked me these 4 questions years ago, and I answered them fairly quickly. At that time, I was probably in my early 30s when somebody asked me those questions or types of questions like this. And I can tell you that 20 years that I've been thinking about these 4 questions, they've continued to refine. So the answers to the questions are more well defined and refined now than they used to be. That's probably going to be the keys for you. Okay, so I want to encourage you to do a couple things as we wind up this video. Number 1, start growing now. To avoid the timing trap, make a decision now, as soon as you turn out the video, that I'm going to grow. I'm going to grow. I'm going to do what I need to do to grow in my own leadership and to grow in my own personal family or other friends in relationships with them. The second thing I'm going to encourage you to do is, as soon as this video is shut off, schedule a block of time today or tomorrow. Schedule a block of time to begin to be intentional about growing. So here's exactly what I would like for you to do. Schedule a block of time for today or tomorrow, and when you're in that block of time, maybe it's 30 minutes, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 4 hours, whatever your schedule allows. In that block of time, what I'd like for you to do is look at the next weeks through the end of the calendar year and schedule a block of time to spend every week, or maybe it's every day for the rest of the year, but at least every week, block out a block of time where you're going to spend having an appointment with yourself, growing in yourself, and investing in yourself. I'd also encourage you then to, if possible, to block out one entire day per quarter for the end of the year to do the same thing. To invest in yourself, to read a book that helps you grow in a specific area, and watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, whatever it may be, interact with a coach so that you may grow. Okay, be intentional. Today's video is about being intentional in your growth. If you can block out time and have an agenda for that time and learn and think and then apply what you've learned and thought, you'll begin to be intentional about your growth and you'll see a major difference. So I hope today was helpful to you. Hope this video was helpful to you today. I look forward to talking with you in the next video. Have a great day.